Salt and Sacrifice review, my fair review. Salt 2, 6 years later, is finally out. And it's a weird game. Very weird game. Genre that it belongs to is a mix of Metroidvania, roguelike, and Souls-like. Yes, you heard me well. 3 genres in one 2D game. Best I can describe Salt and Sacrifice would be Demon Souls in 2D, not Dark Souls, Demon Souls. Now, let's go to sections and rate Salt and Sacrifice properly as it deserves. First section is the story. You play as an inquisitor. Your goal is to save the world by devouring mages. Again, the story about cycles, same as in all Souls-likes. There is a story and lore in item descriptions. NPCs give you hints also, but I'll be honest here, story is just straight bad. It's presented in the worst possible way that exists. Lame, no cinematics, no voice acting, even the freaking writing and font type is wrong. Thank God that Salt and Sacrifice doesn't need story at all for immersion, and that's all I'll say. 3 out of 10 for the story. Next section is game bugs and optimization. 0 bugs, 0 crashes, 0 glitches, mega fast loading screens. Perfection, and it works like a charm. For a new game, optimization is just brilliant. The only thing that annoyed me was occasional stutter while rolling, but in time I got used to it, so I'll give it 10 out of 10. Next section is game time. It took me 22 hours to finish the game with 48 out of 53 achievements unlocked. So I did around 95% of what the game has to offer. You can easily call it 100%. Few fetch things and different endings are left. And those would be for New Game Plus that I'll never play. So easily nearly 100%. Some will finish this game in 15 hours. Some will finish in 50. For me personally, it took 22 hours for $20 price. I believe the price is fair for the time wasted, so 9 out of 10 for game time. Next section is game difficulty. Let me put it like this. From Demon Souls to Dark Souls all the way to Sekiro and Elden Ring combined, I died less in all of those games combined than in 22 hours of Salt and Sacrifice. You heard me well. I died God knows how many times in this game. This is not extremely hard game in terms of combat, but in terms of jumping mechanics, platforming, traps and ambushes. World is just deadly, and when you and if you decide to skip some parts and run through enemies, prepare to die. A lot. From falling, from clunky platforming mechanics, that's the count of your deaths. Bosses are usually less dangerous than classic enemies and they're easier to kill, which is also a negative. Main challenge in the game are definitely traps and falling to your death. It's a hard game, extremely hard game, but in a stupid way hard. So I can't give it more than 8 out of 10. Next section is maps and graphics. Who on freaking earth builds such a huge 6 main maps in the game without a bloody mini-map when there is so much backtracking to do and when everything looks similar because the game is 2.5D? If you wanna copy mapless Demon Souls, then don't do it in 2.5D. Simply as that. Maps, they are a bloody must. Lack of maps and atrocious difficulty setting will lose huge Metroidvania player base for this game. So for this game to become a bit better than it actually is, minimap and difficulty settings are needed. Graphics are fine, very similar to Salt and Sanctuary, but slightly better. UI is really neat and crystal clear. Maps variety is huge for such a short game. All maps are full with interconnection and shortcuts and so on. But lack of mini-map is what puts the score to 6 out of 10. It's just unforgiving for 2.5D without a map in 2022, man. These are not 90s anymore. Next section is gameplay, the most important part of the game. This section is fine, it has its own problems, but overall it's a game that focuses most of its time on actual gameplay, or as I like to call it, on the actual buttons clicking. So gameplay consists of fast attacks, strong attacks, combo attacks, special attacks for different weapons, magic, rolling, blocking, parrying, running, jumping, wall jumping, double jumping, hanging, backtracking, and so on. Classic Metroidvania style. You advance by slaying mages and bosses around the world. Main hub is like in Demon Souls, where you can level up and switch gear and items. Then after you go through the portal to hunt mages in different worlds, or better to say, on different maps. Gameplay is fun, but again, it's a bit repetitive after a few hours in. After 15 hours, I was fed up and I couldn't wait to finish the game. That's a bad sign in my book. 7 out of 10. Next section is leveling and itemization. Zero tutorials in the game and a lot of things to know and learn along the way. Leveling is classic: kill, get salt, spend salt for points, open that Path of Exile ripoff skill tree and put points into strength, endurance, vitality, dexterity, resolve, luck, and so on. Every weapon in the game, and there are a lot of different weapon types in the game, they require specific attribute in skill tree to scale its damage. Arcana scale, conviction scale, strength scale, dexterity scale, and so on. Or a mix of all of those. Once all of that is done, then you'll need to pay attention on special skills and what node you need in your skill tree to trigger those special attacks. Every weapon and piece of armor has its own weight and tier it belongs to, from 1 to 5. Again, to properly use those, you'll need to invest points into Path of Exile-like skill tree. Killing mages unlock their own personal sets of items, trophies, and gear. You can also buy items from vendors. You can also buy consumables and craft them. You can also upgrade items with materials. You can throw bombs, daggers, axes, use bows and crossbows, and so on. You can exchange currency with vendors. Trinkets are also there, your amulet, 2 rings and daggers, as well as 3 unique trophy trinkets that give specific stats like attack speed, more damage, and so on. They go from common to legendary status. There is zero innovation in this section. Souls-like players will know what to do from the start, but casual players will suffer because tutorials are non-existent. It's essential to upgrade gear in order to progress. This is the game of numbers after all. So, 8 out of 10 for leveling and itemization. Next section is NPCs and enemies. Lifeless and soulless NPCs in a Souls-like game. Lifeless and soulless bosses in a Souls-like game. Everyone looks similar with similar attack patterns, and the only thing that changes is the color. 20 plus type of mages to hunt and around 10 classic bosses in total. Mages are classic necromancers, kinetomancers, fungalmancers, poisonmancers, cryomancers, and so on. Necro shoots skulls with death effects, fungal shoots spores with miasma effects, poisonmancers, they shoot poison arrows, of course, with poison effects, cryo mages, they shoot ice with freeze effects, and the list goes on to 20 more mages. Everyone has ability to summon their minions, some ranged spells and some melee attacks. Copy freaking paste in different color on every boss in the game. Speaking about regular bosses, they're even more stupid than mages, and most of them I killed on the first attempt, including the final freaking boss of the game. Enemies are great though, classic enemies. There are around 160 different enemy types in the game. For 22 hours, that's a lot of variety, 160 different enemy types. And their AI is quite solid too. So, 7 out of 10 for NPCs and enemies. Last section is music and sound. Zero voice acting, forgettable music, and solid sound effects. Frankly, this section also sucks for Salt and Sacrifice. 5 out of 10. Final verdict. We got 9 sections with 63 points, and that would be exactly 7 out of 10 for Salt and Sacrifice. Once this game comes out on Steam in a year from now, I guess, because it's Epic Launcher exclusive now, I hope they will change some things for the better. Minimap is a must, proper tutorial is a must, difficulty options for casual players is a must. Once and if they fix these 3 issues, we are looking at solid 8 out of 10 roguelike, Souls-like Metroidvania. Right now, it's just a solid, above mediocre 7 out of 10 time waster for Souls-like veterans. In my opinion, Salt and Sanctuary was a better game. This sequel has some huge problems in every segment there is, but it's still fun considering there are no new games to play at all during summer, and the price is also fair for a new game. Right now, I really hope they're gonna switch for the better. They got time. If you're hungry for a 2D Souls-like, this is the only thing to play right now. I would recommend grabbing Salt and Sacrifice once it drops to $10 or below, and then give it a shot. I thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you on the next one.